Say that it's my great pleasure to welcome Jesse Boudreau to the Pranic World Festival. I've been following him online for some time. He is a beautiful soul, permaculturist, herbalist, and he's been on a pranic journey for quite some time, number of years, but the last year has been quite interesting and intensive. So I'm sure that he has a lot of wisdom and experience to share with us. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Jesse to the Pranic World Festival. Thank you, Jesse. Welcome.
Greetings, Morgane. Thank you for having me. So pleased to be here, family. I appreciate being in community with you all this morning. You know, this journey can sometimes feel lonely in the context of being with family and the greater context of society. So just really an appreciation of having some community with you all today.
I just wanted to mention to you also, Jesse, we've got some folks here, but there's quite a number outside too, to lure them into the tent and out of the lovely earth, sitting on the earth out there and under the trees and next to the hillside here. It's a task, but they're listening in through the speakers, and we've got your video projected up front here. So thank you.
Beautiful. Wish I could be there in person to meet you all and share hugs and all of that stuff. But yeah, so my name is Jesse, as Morgan shared. I'm a permaculturalist and herbalist in northern New Mexico in the United States. You can sort of see the farm behind me where I have a food forest, and I've been practicing the arts of permaculture for 20 years. My journey with the pranic lifestyle really started around 2010, 2011, when I was just starting to have issues with food allergies and, sort of physical and mental malaise. And I've been a practicing Buddhist for about 15 years at that point. But in the greater context of society, had been starting my own business, have a family, and kind of got away from my practice of meditation and all of that busyness. And so I had these allergies to gluten and casein and lactose, and had strived to be vegetarian a couple of times, but not with good effect. And at that time, I really just had a very strong inner need to move to a more gentle way of living, and a way that was more harmonious with my desires as a Buddhist, to relieve my own suffering and the suffering of life in general. So I started sungazing and meditating at that time, and started my raw food journey, where I transferred to raw 100% raw food lifestyle, or living food lifestyle. And it just dramatically changed my well-being, my energy, my confidence, and my desire to be more gentle. So that was really an amazing time for me, spending all my days in the garden and cultivating my life with this greater intent, greater intentionality. And um, it has just gotten better and better ever since, you know. Um, so uh, at that time, I also started to explore herbalism because some of the leaders in the community at that time, people like David Wolf and many others, were sharing about the benefits of superfoods, concepts from Ayurveda and Taoist, sort of Chinese medicine. And it just really piqued my interest. And so I started to explore those and study those intensively, and went to the Evolutionary School of Herbalism, which is a school that combines alchemy, Ayurveda, astrology, uh, and understanding plants as related to planets and how they correspond with our organs and our consciousness, and the importance of this more holistic outlook. And I saw the way in which uh, taking a look at our bodies, taking a look at uh, our experience in this reality, how they correspond to the elements of earth, wind, fire, and water. And my own practice in Breatharianism was beginning to develop at this time. I had seen at the beginning of my raw food journey people like Ray Mayor and Jasmuheen and various other leaders in the community living this lifestyle. And it just really piqued my interest, in terms of uh, developing a life of free of suffering and a life of freedom, health, and joy. Um, so I didn't really set any strong intentions to become a breatharian, but it just really, really intrigued me. And I developed a very consistent practice with sungazing, meditation, uh, Qi Gong, and began working with fasting, as well as being very attentive of, diet and utilizing Chinese tonic herbs as well as other herbs to support my health and to support my overall well-being. And it was an amazing time. It was such a wonderful unfolding for me. And so around that time, we opened our school. We have a school here in northern New Mexico where we teach the arts of permaculture and herbalism. And these concepts of, attention to earth, wind, fire, and water are ways in which we can heal the land and heal ourselves. And I feel that is a strong call for me in this time. As a Buddhist, I would like to encourage uh, the health and happiness of all beings, the plants, the animals, the people. And it's just a wonderful path of joy and fulfillment for me. So trying to speak slowly, I'm usually a very talkative person. So slow me down or speed me up if you need to. Anyway, so that's kind of how this all started for me. And over time, I just became more and more interested in breatharianism, and started to feel it was something that I didn't really have um, real strong intention with, other than just maintaining my practices. And eventually, with all the meditation and sun gazing and taking really good care of myself, just breakfast left me at first. I was doing fruit smoothies in the morning, liquid diet, and then eventually I just didn't feel hungry for breakfast. And I spend most of my days barefoot in a garden or in the forest, gathering herbs and working with plants. And so I'm always grounding and everything too, and very physically active person. So sorry, I have to move this. My cat is causing troubles. So I always felt very energetic in this lifestyle, and I feel that I'll share in a moment what I feel to be the 5 or 6 limbs of breatharian practice that have been beneficial to my growth in the light. But I'd be working with my crew and my wife in gardens, making food forest gardens for clients. And it would come around to lunch and they'd be like, well, are we gonna have lunch? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot. And so eventually lunch left me too, and I started just having sort of a late afternoon, early evening raw food meal. Sometimes it would be a big salad, sometimes it'd be smoothies, or just mono meals of fruit. And then I started to feel this coming on more and more, and feeling this liberation physically and mentally by it just freed up my time, freed up my energy, gave me greater clarity of mind. So I started to explore with dry fasting, and I did this very slowly and carefully. There's a lot. I just heard of unfortunately a lady who was a raw foodist who died. Her name was I won't share her name for her privacy and her family, but you may know who I'm talking about. And she, you know, was just on fruit and sprouts and dry fasting, and she had a disease. She had like a cholera type disease, intestinal disease, and she was also, kind of an anorexic. So I want to speak to that for a moment, just because I think it's important to bring awareness that this lifestyle isn't, may be attractive to people with some, issues around food, or, things like, anorexia and bulimia. And that's not what this is about. This is about really nourishing your body, mind, and soul to the point where you're so energetic and your well-being is such a state that you can start to release food, and that you're developing other forms of energetic practice and energy cultivation, like the grounding, the sun gazing, meditation, Qi Gong, etc. To really do this in a careful and loving way towards yourself. There's, not to think in terms of like, if I'm not a breatharian, I'm not a pure being. We're all pure, beautiful Buddhas as we are. And this is just a way to grow into that in a greater way. Sebastian kitten. Sorry. Cat has his own mind. So I started exploring with dry fasting slowly and carefully, and I'd like to share about the thing of epigenetics. You may be aware of epigenetics already through teachers like Bruce Lipton, and Greg Braden, and some of these folks who are sharing about the way in which we can influence our genes with our behavior. And so I jumped into dry fasting knowing that you can stretch your body and your mind to do more and more if you do it gently and carefully. So the first dry fast I did was 24 hours. And then some weeks later, I did like a 36-hour dry fast. And then some weeks later, I did a 48-hour dry fast. And then I, kept stretching it by 12 hours up to like a 96-hour dry fast. After which I moved into liquidarianism and have spent the last almost 6 years as a liquidarian. And then in the last year, I kept open. I'm also opening my window of dry fasting more and more consistently on the daily. So I was first doing, as I moved into liquidarianism, 16-hour dry fast with 8 hours in which I let myself have as many drinks as I wanted. And then I've since then moved it to 24-hour dry or 23-hour dry fast every day. And now I'm also doing a 48-hour dry fast every weekend. So I've been doing that consistently for about 16 months or so at this point. So I feel myself growing in the light, and just want to, sort of punctuate the importance of doing this slowly and carefully, listening to your body and developing the energetic practices. So I guess I'll go into that now. I feel like there's, I think it's 5 limbs of Breatharianism. So one is energy cultivation. So that's these practices like sungazing, meditation, grounding, but they also go into the realm of like relationships, your relationship with work, your relationships with other human beings. You want to be in relationships that feed you, relationships that give you energy and don't steal your energy. So your work, many people will say this, is like, my work feeds me. You want to find that kind of livelihood that gives you fulfillment and nourishment at a certain level. Same with our relationships, romantic or other friendships. You want to be in relationships that are nourishing. So I'm sure everyone has had that experience of doing some work or having a really great conversation with someone for, hours and hours and hours, and you just forget to eat because you're having so much fun doing this activity or being with these people and sharing this wonderful conversation. So I encourage you to seek those relationships. And similarly, you've probably had those relationships in work or with friends and family and, romantic partners where it feels draining, where it sort of steals your energy. And after, being with that person or doing that thing, you just feel exhausted. So I would encourage you all to move away from those types of relationships, because those are, it may even be someone you love dearly and truly love, but if it's stealing your energy, it's not something. You can love them from a distance. You can love them with certain boundaries. So it's very kind of nuanced in that way, because it can be very confusing. I know it has been for me, where I have some relationships in my life of people that I love dearly, but I have to be attentive to my energy and honor my energy. So that's one limb of energy cultivation, or pranic uh, living practice. Another one is being disciplined with your sexual energy, and your sexual energy, it's not only your energy of sharing intimately, but it's also in things like, similarly, like with work and projects. Every time you're being creative, you're tapping into your sexual energy. And so to be temperate with your sexual energy, and mindful of that. And there are many, many ways in which you can do that, even if you are intimate in a romantic relationship. Ways in which have been detailed by people like Montauk Chia, where you can practice like Taoist or tantric sexual energy cultivation, and move into sort of divine sacred practice with your sexual energy. So there are people who are very, I would refer you to like the Taoists and the yogic tradition. I won't go into great detail about how that goes, but they're, essentially, this is also connected with Kundalini energy. Your body makes you have 5 or 50 trillion cells, and every cell makes 1.4 volts. So that means, whether you're a breatharian or not, you're running around with 70 trillion volts running through your body. And this sexual energy is connected with your cerebral spinal fluid. And so you have these channels of the Ida and the Pingala. One is your cerebral spinal fluid and your sexual fluid, and the other is your blood, and they dump into your pineal and your pituitary gland naturally. And that's partly what is wonderful about pranic practice, is as you're lightening up, as you're fasting, the Kundalini wants to fall upward, and we're always eating and stuff. And so this is pushing that Kundalini energy down. As it burns off, it just wants to flow. And so this, it would be natural that we would all have like an enlightening experience of a psycho-spiritual seed that is dumped into our pineal gland and pituitary gland at least once a month. Like enlightenment, is something that is the birthright of all human beings, something that is natural to us all, every one of us. And so these pranic practices are a way to open up into this, and the sexual energy, or the Kundalini energy, is a vital piece of the realization of your own enlightenment. And literally that word enlightenment is like to lighten up, right? We're lightening up our diet with raw foods. When we're working with fasting, we're working with the sunlight. We are light beings. We have this, 70 trillion volts of light going through us. Your body, they say in quantum physics that your all material, all matter is 99.9% empty space. And actually there's more energy in the quantum vacuum than in all of the matter in the universe. So we have to flip our understanding about energy as we move into this lifestyle. And it's partly this change and because mind is the substrate of reality, mind is, the universe is mental. As we understand this in a greater way, the more uh, our bodies and the material universe will follow our understanding. So, moving on with that was a whole aside, but it's connected. So, moving on with the 5 limbs of Breatharian practice, another one of the limbs is fasting and diet. You want to incorporate diet as part of your movement toward breatharianism, so that you're always giving yourself the highest quality nourishment, obviously organic, working with wonderful superfoods, and the plants uh, sort of entrain the light codes from the sun, and they correspond with different planets and with different organ systems. So you can use plants as teachers to guide your body into the light more and more. So uh, to emphasize that the pranic path is more about, you know, uh, nourishing yourselves on all levels, that this energetic state starts to come in by caring about how you feel, by caring about your sexual energy, by nourishing your body, but also working with fasting because of the benefits of fasting. Your body will naturally lighten up more and more, and you'll see as you work more with fasting and with these foods, or this is the case for most of us, anyways, that it just happens naturally. You don't want to force it. That's part of the Taoist concepts that have been guide stones for me, is Wu Wei, which most people translate Wu Wei as not doing, but really Wu Wei means not forcing. So you never want to force this process. You want to allow this process to unfold. So we've got our energy cultivation practice, our sexual temperance, and our diet and fasting. Another practice is exercise. You know, your body. Actually, before I move on to that, with the thing of diet, working with raw foods and particularly fruits can be very helpful to this path, because roots, the whole thing with diet is you want to have alkaline food, because your body is this battery, right? That is one side is acidic and one side is alkaline. And if you can get to that base of 7, then your body will work. There's an electromagnetic field that emanates from your heart. And this is part of this electrical dynamic of our body. And so as we incorporate more raw foods, and particularly fruits, it will alkalize, but it also is high in biophotons. So that's what your body is craving, is this energy, right? And it can work with food, but it's our natural state is this energetic state. The other thing about raw foods and fruits is they are high in H3O2, which they're now just starting to explore this more and more in quantum biology, of this concept of exclusion zone water. So exclusion zone water is this interstitial water that is a 4th phase of water. It's a liquid crystal gel that on one side has a positive charge and on the other side has a negative charge. And so between getting the body to be more alkaline and developing the exclusion zone water, we increase our energetic vibration. So that's a key part of opening up the pranic channels as well. Is the fiber will act as an intestinal broom and clean off mucoid plaquing and stuff that adhere to your intestinal walls. The astringency of fruits will open up the pranic channels, because this body wants to just be a conductor of energy. And if you think about how much food you've eaten in your life, if you put that into a giant pile in a room somewhere, it would be enormous, right? So our eating for 30, 40 years, however old you are, what happens is an accumulation of salts and solids and things in your kidneys and your lymphatic system, and this plugs these energetic channels of the nadis, or the meridians of energy that run through the body. Also, we have these mental constructs that can stifle the energy. We'll get into that in a minute, a little bit more. But so, it's about just opening up the body, because the body wants to move to this higher energetic state. So the other thing to work in with the diet aspect, I feel, is superfoods or tonic herbs. So in Taoist Chinese medicine, they talk about there are 3 classes of herbs. There's the herbs of the earth, the herbs of men, and the herbs of heaven. So these are kind of like the lower, the middle, and the higher herbs. And so there are herbs like reishi, like goji berries, astragalus, ginseng, etc., that will nourish the 3 treasures. The 3 treasures in Chinese traditional medicine are Jing, Qi, and Shun. And these are connected with sort of your body, mind, and spirit. So the Jing is likened to a candle. The Qi is the flame, and the Shun is the light or the spirit that comes off of the flame. So these superior class of herbs are foods that you can eat every day that are tonic, and they're never contraindicated. They're only ever going to help tonify different systems of the body. And one of the things you want to target is herbs that nourish the blood and the kidneys, because the kidneys is the storehouse of Jing, and your blood is what transfers Qi through the body. There's that lower class of herbs are things like, for instance, comfrey is a wonderful herb for healing bones, but if you used it every day, you would get kidney stones, and it would start to cause you problems. So just to point out the difference between like the superior class of the herbs of heaven and more, against like the herbs of earth that can have a benefit, but only for a specific, health issue. So just to differentiate that. And, so the exploration of herbs, there's lots of herbs also, like the mint family, which are uh, you know, things like oregano and rosemary and thyme, and there are many others that contain terpenes. And terpenes are digestive, respiratory neuroplasticizers. So they help all the parts of your tree. They help your digestion, they help your respiration, and they help your cognition. And it's important, I think, also as people aspiring to breatharianism, to work with herbs that uh, aid the breath. So those types of herbs would be things like mullein, um, elderberry, pine needle tea is wonderful for the respiratory system and is also high in terpenes. Um, um, Things like cordyceps mushrooms, because the breath is a huge part. It's called breatharianism for a reason. It's this way in which the breath can actually nourish us. The breath creates electricity and energy in the body. And um, as bioaccumulators at the top of the food chain, we accumulate more toxicity than any other organism. And if you think about, you know, sort of the pollution that is put into our air and our water, it's important to work with these herbs to detoxify and to strengthen and tone the different organ systems. So um, that that's kind of it on the diet and stuff for now. I could go into that for a whole hour. I'm trying to hit as many notes as I can here. So moving on to the fourth limb, which, as I alluded to before, is exercise. So, you know, this could be as simple as, it's, think of it as play. Just, doing the thing you like to do that's physical, whether it's taking a walk or maybe working in the garden like I love to do, or snowboarding, or, surfing, playing on the beach, uh, whatever it is you like to do, running, uh, doing some physical exercise every day. Your muscles are actually like big batteries. And so the more you can develop your musculature and um, get some movement, the movement will build energy. Um, it creates energy in the body. We often think if I go and exert myself, I will drain myself. And, especially if you're working with, dry fasting and stuff, you want to be attentive, but you do want to get some movement. If you just sit, you will get more tired than if you actually get out and move your body and play in the world. Uh, so that's very important. There's an Ayurvedic adage that says it is important to exert yourself, and it is equally important not to overexert yourself. So don't be punishing with yourself as exercise. I know, particularly here in America, people get a little too zealous with their exercise. I think they're so concentrated on their fitness that they're sort of punishing themselves and draining their energy. So make sure you keep it in that realm of play and just have fun and get out and move. It's a joy. It's really something that you can just play and have fun. And and that leads into the fifth limb of breatharianism in my mind, and that is the mental and joy practice. That the universe is mental, as I was talking about earlier, and the way, so, this joy practice has many sort of aspects, like um, uh, feeding your mind good thoughts, being attentive to what you feed your consciousness, you know, what you watch, what you read, you know, mantras, the things that you tell yourself with your mind, you know, and are you following your inner guidance to your highest joy? What can you do? You know, you know what is fun for you, what gives you joy. Are you doing it? You know, it's important. Uh, you know, I think of Breatharianism is actually sort of one of the smaller goals. Really, the higher goal is happiness and freedom, and a loving, compassionate heart and mind, you know. And if we give ourselves joy, if we give ourselves love, if we feed ourselves good thoughts, and foods and etc., we develop this joy. And this is really what's gonna, more than anything, I think, this is what will lead you into a pranic life is joy, you know. So that's and it's also the greatest health secret, you know. If you practice joyfulness, that's way more important than any of the other practices. Um so um you know, and as when Wayne Dyer says, don't die with your music inside you. To develop this pranic lifestyle is to liberate you, to seek your fulfillment, to uh you know I really love, for instance, playing music. I love making gardens. I love board sports. You know, the less I have to concentrate on making money and gathering things up and creating food and stuff for my, self and my family, the more time I can spend playing in a garden or in the forest, or making music with my wife, or these kinds of things. So um, that's, to me, that's the aim of all of this practice. So I think we're just at about 15 minutes from the end. So I want to open it up to questions at this time. And so, yeah, any questions out there?
Wow. Thank you so much, Jesse, for this talk so far. It's been super fantastic. I've enjoyed listening to it, and I'm sure everyone here has as well. I know we've got some questions online, but do we want to start with any questions? Yes, we've got a question here from our audience. You can sit here, he can see you.
Thank you for your wonderful talk, Jesse. So much good stuff in there. I was wondering, with the herbs and all that, do you still use that in your liquidarian diet, or is it primarily more in earlier stages of the transition? And if you still do use it in liquids, how do you incorporate them?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. I feel it's helpful to use them all along, and I do work with superfoods daily. So just to share what my practice is right now is I dry fast from 6:30 at night to 5:30 the next day. And at that time, I usually will make like half a gallon of fruit juice. My favorite juices are melons. I also work with a superfood company. So I have some like juice powders that are things like grass juices, medicinal mushrooms, spirulina, things like that, that I will make oftentimes a tea base of like reishi or goji berries or whatever that I'll pour into my superfood juice, you know. So that's one way I work with it. Other things I do is like I get these little little bottles of red ginseng in royal jelly. It's like a bee product, you know. And then I'll also make like usually I'll have a kombucha, and then my last drink is like dessert. Usually it's cacao, and I work with the alkaline, you know, Dutch cacao, because it's more alkaline. It's like 7.2 plus, versus like regular cacao is like, you know, 5. It's more acidic. And I'll work in like lion's mane mushroom powder, or you know, Siberian ginseng or reishi, and blend that in, you know, some like coconut water or something like that. So, you know, there's still solid things going in me in terms of these powders, and still, even with juicing, there's going to be micronutrient. And it's like, you know, but it's very small, and it's the surface area is made available so your body can just take it up really readily. And this, you know, the liquids will wash the cells, and these superfoods and dense nutrient of juices and things get into the cell, and they make it more electric. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and thank you. Jesse, I'm really excited that you mentioned the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. I'm familiar with it. Saja is doing great work. So I've just typed it into the chat as well. For those of you who are curious, on the chat, I've typed in a little bit of notes of, I don't know, I felt like doing notes of everything you were saying. So I've typed in some notes there, and I just typed in the School of Evolutionary Herbalism as well. We have more questions from our live audience here. Yes, okay.
Hi, Jesse. So I noticed I got a little bit hung up on that detail of the 73 trillion volts of adding up the voltage of each cell. I couldn't quite make sense of it. And also, how do you use that information?
I just bring that up because just this whole thing of understanding that our bodies work on electricity and magnetism. You know, we've got this social conditioning that we need food, and that the mitochondria converts food into ATP, you know, and that's true, but it's because our bodies are very adaptive, you know. So it's more just information, you know. I actually said 70 trillion because, yeah, it's 1.4 volts for 50 trillion cells. But that's just so that you know, like, you literally are a powerful being. Like, that much energy, it can shock, it can kill. There's so much. That's the thing of the Kundalini energy, is there's this fire of electricity that's running through your body. And so as we develop the pranic path, you know, these Kundalini awakenings and the opening up of the nadis and the bindus, you're going to move through emotions, you're going to move through traumas, you know, and you want to be gentle as this energy opens up inside of you, because there's literally people who in the past have like spontaneously combusted, you know, in the opening up of the Kundalini energy. So you just always want to follow your inner guides and be attentive to your emotions and your body. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you, Jesse. We have another question from online. Someone wants to know if you are still practicing sun gazing, and they want your advice for how to practice sun gazing when you live in a city.
Thank you. Yes, that is one of my core practices, and it's something I wanted to speak to in greater detail, trying to respect the time here. But so there's this whole thing of the influences of the different planets in our solar system and the way they connect with our body. And the sun is connected with our heart. It is the heart of our solar system, right? And its electromagnetic field affects all the other planets in the solar system. Similarly, our heart, in Chinese traditional medicine, they say the heart is the emperor, and that it has this electromagnetic field that actually extends well beyond your body, measurably at least 54 feet beyond your body. So yes, I still practice sun gazing, and I got into it following HRM, who was also a breatharian, and he says the eyes are windows to the soul. And this also, the practice of sun gazing also stimulates your pineal gland, which most of our pineal glands have been calcified from fluoride and chlorine and things in the water, stagnation, being in front of computers. So getting that natural light to stimulate your pineal gland and feed your electrical body. The safe way to do it is to work with the sun the first or last hour of the day, when the sun rays are attenuated by the oblique angle that they hit the atmosphere. And there's 0 UV during this time. And you can look directly at the sun at this time. And it's the way HRM suggests doing it is starting with 10 seconds the first day. And then you cup your eyes and absorb it. And then it's important to be barefoot while because this is a exchange of electricity between the sun through your body and the ground. You want to be grounded when you're working with this electricity, this prana. So then you go to 20 seconds the next day, and then you go to 30 seconds the next day. And when I did this, I went all the way to 45 minutes. That's what they suggest. So it takes like 9 months or so to develop. And at the top of that 45 minutes, I had like a DMT experience. I've never worked with DMT, but this is part of the thing, is the secrets are in the secretions. The vision plants like psilocybin mushrooms or cannabis or ayahuasca are all have chemistry that is similar to our own neurochemistry. And we can open this up through these practices of fasting, sun gazing, meditation, sexual temperance, etc. But working with it in the city, if some people may live in a valley with mountains around, you can still sun gaze, but it's better, if you can't see the sun for that first hour of the day or last hour, wait till it's higher, but do it with your eyes closed and just absorb it through your eyelids. There's even people who do it open-eyed, but I would suggest starting at least with eyes closed and develop it in the same way, and it will still stimulate your pineal gland, and light will still get into your light body and sort of charge up your channels. And even just being in the sunshine is another form of this, because your body photosynthesizes sunlight into vitamin D, and this also builds that exclusion zone water. Being in infrared light just at all, it builds the exclusion zone water and the electricity in the body. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Do we have any other questions here? Yeah.
Hey there. Thanks a lot. I want to ask, as you're working in a garden and as you're very sensitive, do you speak with your plants? Do you communicate? And are you in contact with elementals? Yeah, how do you perceive it? Thank you.
That is a fantastic question. I love that question. Yes, definitely. I speak to my plants. I also and visit them every, as I walk through my garden every day and just tend to them and touch them. And, also when I'm gathering herbs in the forest, I like to thank the plants as I take them. When I'm making herbal medicine, I try to draw in the energies of the elementals and interact, consciously with earth, wind, fire, and water as like entities. So like for instance, I may make on a moon medicine, something like, there's various plants that correspond with the moon. Some things are like mugwort, for instance. And I would work on moon day, with the moon medicine, and I would contemplate the type of healing I'm trying to enact while I'm working with that medicine, because all of these things combine, the intention, the energies of the planets, and the energies of the herbs themselves. So yeah, it's a wonderful, conversation going on all the time between the plants, the planets, the elements, and it's really fun, really fun to work with and connect in that way. So yeah, thanks for asking that question. That's great stuff.
So I think we've got time for one last question here before we close up. I've got one from someone online. So they want to know how your family life is while living this lifestyle. Like, is your wife also living this way? And how are you coordinating your life as a parent and with children with this kind of lifestyle?
That is probably the best question, and also the most challenging part of this lifestyle, because you really have to be called to this lifestyle for it to be something that's for you. And my family was not called, and they actually all eat meat. They all, they live, fairly normal lives. My wife, and I do share a lot in that she's also loves herbalism, loves the esoteric information. She works with fasting quite regularly, but and this is an important point, in terms of like your constitution too. She's more Vata. She's, in Ayurveda, there's the doshas of Kapha, Pitta, Vata. Oh, kitten. Cat's knocking my thing over here. And those are corresponding to earth, wind, fire, and water. And she tends to, hey, ouch, stop. She, Vata constitution tends to get hypoglycemic, need to be more grounded, have some more grounding foods, to balance her dosha. And she started on raw food with me. She's actually the person who got me into raw food. But after about a month or so, she had to move away from that, And so that was a whole challenge. At first, it was very hard for me because I really wanted to have this, do this in connection with my life partner and with my children. But at a certain point, I realized that what I was doing was not honoring them and their guidance, and their individual doshas and life path. So I had to just come into acceptance of that. And that, that's an important part of the energy cultivation and a part of actual respectful relationship, being honoring of everybody's individual way. There's something that happens with human psychology where we find something that's good for us and we want everybody around us and everyone to do the same thing, and we think our way is the way, but our way is only the way for ourselves, you know. And to be in that, in your independence instead of in a codependent way in your relationships, is extremely vital for you to be able to do this long term, you know. To not have it hung upon what anyone else is doing, but realizing this is your individual path to freedom, to wholeness and wellness, and, you know, and just honor everybody's differences, you know. So I hope that-
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jesse. I know it's a topic that a lot of us on this path, or experimenting in the ways that we are with our own ways we're nourishing ourselves, it's a prevalent question. I know it's been in my life as well, as I'm in a family with children and a partner, and I've been on this path a bit longer and integrated it a bit more. So it's a topic for all of us. Thank you so much, Jesse. We're at the end of our time together here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know that everyone here has really enjoyed your talk as much as I have. And it's been such a great joy to have you here, as I know a lot of us have been following you online, and now to be able to hear a bit more concentrated time with you and have some Q&A. It's just fantastic. Thank you so much, Jesse, for joining us at the Pranic World Festival.
My great and wonderful pleasure. Thank you all for your wonderful hearts. Keep shining. And, you know, gratitude and love to every one of you. Hopefully I'll join you live in person next year.
Absolutely. We would be more than thrilled to have you here, Jesse, anytime. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a beautiful day, family.